With the passing of Roe v. Wade in 1973, abortion on demand was made legal throughout the United States. This opened the doors for abortionists nationwide, including in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where in 1975, Sue Crawley and Fran Mazzocco opened the Chattanooga Women's Clinic on Vance Road. Two women living in the Vance Road area created a petition in an attempt to block the opening of the clinic. This was merely the beginning of a civil war that would last 18 years. In 1984, Dr. Dennis and Leslie Bazzacco, along with Charlie and Brenda Wysong and Doug and Sally Daughtry, began Operation Jericho, becoming sidewalk counselors trying to dissuade young women from entering the clinic.
And we started Operation Jericho, and we started marching on that side of the street, came right through their parking lot, went all the way down, and then walked back around and around and around, because we were told that if you stood still you would be a vagrant, but they can't keep you off the sidewalk if you kept on moving. So Operation Jericho, the Lord said, right, to everybody, march around. So we marched around, and then we were slapped with a $600,000 lawsuit for interfering with another's business, and the battle was ensued at that point. Okay.
In 1988, they realized that young women needed more than just their words to keep their children. They needed the tools to take care of them. So they decided to open a crisis pregnancy center. In 1988, Vance Road became a battleground when the AAA Women's Services opened its doors across the street from the Chattanooga Women's Clinic. Over time, people all over Chattanooga became involved and dedicated hours of time every week to the fight for life.
What I would do is every week, I believe it was on Tuesday and Thursdays, that's when the abortions would be performed. I would take my infant son, and I had pro-life literature and also literature that explained just exactly what abortion was.
In 1989, the fight for life began to get more heated when several members of the community began the Pro-Life Majority Coalition of Chattanooga, PROMAC.
We established the Pro-Life Coalition in 1989 in order to let the city know that there are people here who love life, who care not just about that innocent baby in the womb, but about the mothers as well.
In January of 1989, protests became more intense when Operation Rescue started.
Operation Rescue took place in the late 80s. It was civil disobedience, not unlike the civil rights issues.
Now, Operation Rescue, if you know anything about that, that is the first time that we said no, you're not going in that building. No, over my body, you're not going in that building. We would close down the abortion clinic, and we did it a number of times. What you do is you come here early in the morning before they get here, and you lock yourselves together with locks that they cannot break through. The jaws of life cannot get through. These are kryptonite locks. And this place had 6 doors on it. So you had to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 to 30 people per door to get the place closed, because it would take long enough for the police to get rid of them. The very first one we did was January 1989.
Many of the people involved in the rescue were clergy, were elderly people. These were your average Americans believing that by placing themselves between the child and the one who was there to be paid to kill the child would save lives, which in fact it did.
My position was that I was not going to be arrested, but we had several layers of people around, and so like surrounding them, we sat down. It was like a peaceful, we were supposed to be quiet, and when they did ask us to leave, we would have to resist until they said, if you do not leave now, you will be arrested for trespassing. That was our cue to leave, and that's kind of when the police were there until. The police officers were very kind, but they were just doing their jobs, and they said several times over, you understand, we're not against what you're doing, but we're having to perform our jobs, and we understood that.
Those who chained themselves to the doors of the clinic had made the decision that they would not run from the law. They would allow the full forces of it to fall on their heads. Many were arrested and prosecuted.
The reason, I guess you might want to know the reason why we did this. I don't really believe in disobeying the law, but the Bible does say that we ought to obey God rather than men. And if my neighbor across the street had a no trespassing sign posted on his property, and if his house were burning and I could hear his child screaming inside, I would disobey the no trespassing sign, and I would try to do what I could to help his child escape from certain death. And that's kind of what we felt like we did. Those children that were going into the abortion clinic were not going to be able to come out.
In 1991, clinic co-owner Sue Crawley died of cancer. 21 months later, in February of 1993, Fran Mazzocco, the other owner, also died of cancer. In 1993, Porter Yarborough, the landlord for the Chattanooga Women's Clinic, went bankrupt and was forced to sell the property the Chattanooga Women's Clinic was on. The abortionist, Ed Perry, planned to buy the clinic for $225,000. After learning about the pending sale, the pro-life coalition challenged the sale in an attempt to outbid Ed Perry in a bankruptcy court auction.
Now, we had 1 week to raise money, and we went everywhere asking for money. And when we raised $40,000 in one night, we realized we could possibly do this.
People throughout the Chattanooga Valley and up on Lookout Mountains and Signal Mountain pooled their money together. And there were large donations. Some people gave several $1,000s, but most of the money that was donated were $10 and $20 offerings in churches.
The pro-life coalition raised $301,000 in 5 days' time. Ed Perry dropped out of the bidding after Promac had made their final bid of $294,000. On May 17, 1993, the sale was closed and Promac took possession of the property.
No business, none here. So after that was done, we then demolished the building a number of months later. And I mean, it was a delight. I mean, I had a smile on my face for like hours. I was just getting to come through the door that I kept on getting the rest of that. Just drove right through with the bulldozer.
With the closing of the clinic, Chattanooga became the largest city in the United States without a freestanding abortion clinic.
People refer to the memorial as the best kept secret in town.
After the building was demolished, a memorial was built on the same ground to remember the lives lost there. A fence surrounds the memorial, outlining where the Chattanooga Women's Clinic once stood. The entrance is where a window once was.
We're closing the gates, and we're opening the window. That's why you come in this one.
Where the procedure rooms once were is the heart of the memorial.
You're standing on the 3 abortion procedure rooms. 1, 2, 3. And this is where 35,000 people were killed.
At the heart of the memorial is a black granite wall, a wall of names. Hundreds of brass nameplates have been placed on the wall to memorialize the children lost to abortion.